I want to take you back, way before cities, before farming, before fire even became fully controlled, to a time when our ancestors looked like us, but could not speak like us. Imagine Earth 2 million years ago, small groups of early humans, Homo erectus, living day to day. They could hunt a little, gather food, use simple tools, but they had no words. They could scream in fear, cry in pain, laugh in joy. Maybe short warning sounds or calls, but that was it. No one could say, "Be careful, danger behind the tree. Follow me, I found water. Don't eat those berries." They could not explain yesterday. They could not imagine tomorrow. They could not share thoughts. Every idea lived and died inside one brain. Humanity, trapped in silence. Survival depended only on what could be seen. No planning, no memory, no stories, no instructions. We had hands, we had fire, we had tools, but we did not yet have the one thing that would make us human. But something started happening inside the brain. Fire gave us cooked food, which allowed our brains to grow larger. Stone tools required problem solving. Living in groups required cooperation. The pressure of survival was forcing evolution to innovate. We needed a new technology, not made of stone, not made of wood, not made of fire, a technology made of sound. So our ancestors began using gestures, pointing a finger to show direction, raising a hand to signal stop. Simple signs that carried simple meaning. It wasn't language yet, but it was the very first step toward shared understanding. Gestures helped, but they had limits. You can't describe a lion hiding behind tall grass with your hands. You can't warn the group at night while hiding in darkness. You can't build memory with gestures. We needed something more. We needed voices, not random noise, but organized, meaningful sounds. Scientists believe one of our ancestors, Homo heidelbergensis, developed a more flexible throat and voice box around 300,000 years ago. Suddenly, humans were able to make a greater variety of sounds. Different pitches, different rhythms, different meanings. It wasn't a full language yet, but it was enough to signal ideas. Come here. Throw this. Danger. Food. And that changed everything. With sound, we could teach. We could organize hunting. We could protect each other. We could share knowledge between individuals. For the first time in history, thinking became a team activity. This was one of the greatest breakthroughs in evolution. Bigger than the invention of fire, bigger than tools. Because language unlocked the ability to grow intelligence together. Now imagine the very first true word spoken by a human. No one knows what it was. But it was probably about survival, food, family, danger, short syllables, simple meaning. Yet that one small sound was the birth of communication, and from that point on, everything changed rapidly. Groups became larger, connections became stronger. Knowledge no longer disappeared when a person died. Information finally became immortal. Children could learn faster, ideas could spread, plans could be made, warnings could travel across distance. Humans were no longer just reacting to the world. We were controlling our future. Think about this for a moment. Every tool we create, every invention, every culture, nation, religion, story, song, all of it begins with language, because language is the original network. The first internet, the first education system, the first technology that connected minds. It gave us checkmark cooperation, checkmark culture, checkmark teaching, checkmark memory, checkmark identity, checkmark imagination without language. No civilization would exist. Humanity's intelligence didn't evolve because we were stronger, or sharper, or faster. We evolved because we learned how to speak, how to share thoughts, how to unite minds. That was the moment we stopped being just another animal and started becoming human. And that is where this story truly begins. Because once early humans had sound and meaning, something much bigger was about to happen next. People would not just communicate reality, they would communicate ideas, emotions, beliefs, dreams, the first sparks of imagination, the beginning of storytelling, the rise of culture. Silence had ended, and humanity's voice was only getting started. Now that we had meaningful sounds, life transformed. But those early calls were still limited. Short messages like here, go, danger. Useful, yes, but they couldn't express anything complex. You couldn't tell someone about tomorrow. You couldn't describe how you feel. You couldn't explain why something matters. The next step wasn't just sounds, it was structure. Something powerful started evolving in our brains. Grammar, rules, patterns, ways to combine sounds into bigger ideas. Instead of one short call, suddenly you could combine two. Water, there. Food, come. Danger, forest. And then three, I see lion. You, help, hunt. That might sound simple to us today, but for early humans, it was a breakthrough. Because now, anyone could learn what someone else already knew. Knowledge became a shared resource, and that changed how we survived. The real magic of language was not just communication, it was cooperation. Let me give you an example. A lone human cannot take down a bison, but 10 humans, working together, can. Language allowed teamwork, planning, strategy. Instead of every person hunting alone, now we were a coordinated unit. Work became organized. You go left, I go right. We attack together. This turned human groups into unstoppable forces. Predators that once hunted us became prey. And over thousands of years, our brains adapted to handle this complexity. The frontal lobe expanded, the center of logic, planning, decision-making. The temporal lobe grew, the region for sound and memory. Human intelligence wasn't just growing, it was compounding. We didn't stop there. Language unlocked something even greater, childhood learning. Without spoken teaching, every generation would have to figure out life from scratch. Fire, tools, hunting, medicine. Without language, none of that could reliably pass on. But now, parents could explain, grandparents could advise, the group could share. Babies born with no knowledge could grow up mastering thousands of years of wisdom in just a few seasons. This one change, teaching through language, accelerated evolution faster than millions of years of biology ever could. It is the reason humans dominate the planet today. Language didn't just change how we hunted, it changed how we felt. Suddenly, we could talk about pain, about joy, about fear, about love. We could comfort, we could encourage, we could belong. Social bonds became stronger, relationships deeper, trust more powerful. We went from survival groups to families, tribes, societies. And when humans started living together in bigger groups, something new emerged. Culture, shared stories, shared beliefs, shared identity. Who we are, where we came from, what we value. All of that started with language. But the most incredible step was still ahead. Language wasn't only about the present, it allowed humans to escape the limits of time. We could talk about yesterday, memory today, reality tomorrow, imagination. This unlocked creativity. Now we could ask, what if? What should we do next? How can we improve this? What lies beyond the horizon? Every invention in history came from a question, and language created the ability to question. It allowed us to imagine things that didn't exist yet. Tools, article, shelter, strategy, future. Language made the impossible a goal. Our ancestors also discovered something amazing. Stories. At night, around fires, people could now share experiences, legends of great hunts, warnings about predators, lessons for children, meaning for life. Stories were the first education system, the first history books, the first moral laws. Every generation became wiser because they inherited the minds of those before them. Before language, knowledge died with the body. After language, knowledge lived forever. So let's look at what language achieved. It made us smarter. It united us. It multiplied intelligence across groups. It built social structure. It passed down learning. It turned information into culture. It gave us memory and imagination. Our survival no longer depended only on muscles, but on minds working together. This is why humans, small, slow, weak animals, rose to the top of the food chain, not claws, not fangs, not speed. Words made us powerful. This was the beginning of everything we are today. But the evolution of language wasn't finished. As groups grew bigger and more complex, sounds needed to become more precise. Different tribes developed unique languages, new words, new accents, new rules. Some languages started building larger vocabularies, some developed complex grammar, some invented tone and rhythm, the beginnings of music and poetry. And then something truly extraordinary happened. Language didn't just describe the world, it started shaping the world. We began naming things. And when you name something, you understand it differently. Naming gave humans identity, meaning, belonging. A world filled with silence had now become a world filled with ideas. That brings us to the next part of this journey, where language reaches its ultimate form, the creation of symbols and writing. The ability not only to speak, but to record thoughts permanently, where spoken memory becomes visible memory, where ideas no longer need a voice to survive. And that's where we are headed next. We've reached a turning point in our story. Language wasn't just a tool anymore. It had become the foundation of human life. But something was still missing. Spoken language is powerful, yet fragile. If a storyteller dies, their knowledge dies too. A warning or a lesson might last a lifetime, but it rarely lasted longer than memory. Humanity needed a way to preserve ideas outside the brain. We needed a backup system, a way to store knowledge that would survive the future. But before writing arrived, language continued to evolve in surprising ways. The most dramatic change wasn't in our voices, it was in our brains. Language rewired the human mind. Suddenly, our thinking wasn't limited to the present. We could imagine things that didn't exist. Yet, we could picture better tools before we made them. We could plan journeys before we took them. We could invent beliefs that united us with people we'd never met. Language didn't just describe reality, it reshaped it. That's when the greatest human advancements began. Organized hunting camps and settlements, rituals and traditions, myths and religions, art and creativity, moral rules and laws. Everything that makes us human grew out of communication. We became more than survivors, we became dreamers. And then the real explosion happened. Vocabulary expanded dramatically, not just sounds for survival. Now we created words for emotions: love, fear, hope, anger, joy. For family, mother, father, child, brother, tribe. For nature, moon, river, sky, night, storm, fire. For imagination, spirit, God, story, magic. Suddenly, the invisible world inside the mind became shareable. We discovered meaning. That's when music and poetry were born, not simply to communicate, but to express. We didn't just live life, we started to feel life together. Language also changed relationships. It built stronger communities. With words, leaders emerged, people who could inspire others. Elders became teachers. Knowledge gained value. Stories carried wisdom across generations. This social unity became our greatest evolutionary weapon. No predator on Earth could match humans who think together. Our success wasn't because one human was smart, but because many humans could share intelligence. That is the true power of language. But humans always want more. We wanted memory that lasts longer than breath, longer than lifetimes, longer than tribes. So the next innovation arrived: symbols. At first, they appeared as cave paintings. Not writing yet, but communication in another form. A hunter draws a bison on a cave wall, and thousands of years later, we still understand what they meant. That is the first permanent language. Symbols became a bridge between speech and writing. Now knowledge could last, not just for one generation, but forever. This is the moment when humanity truly changed. The ability to create permanent records triggered laws, trade, religion, science, history. Once language left the mouth and entered the world physically, civilization was inevitable. Cities, governments, books, schools, technology, the internet. Everything started here. Every invention we celebrate today can be traced back to this one innovation: the invention of language. Think about what language gives us. We can say "I love you" when words matter. We can teach a child who they are. We can predict storms and save lives. We can write laws that protect strangers. We can share knowledge instantly across the planet. We can create artificial intelligence, like the voice you're listening to right now, all because humans learned to speak. Language gave us history and future, knowledge and imagination, identity and community. Words built our species. Words built our world. And the most incredible part, language is still evolving today. Every meme, every slang term, every emoji is proof that human communication never stops growing. When you think about it, humanity's greatest invention is not fire, not tools, not even electricity or computers. The greatest invention is us talking to each other. Because without language, none of the other inventions would exist. Words are the original technology, the first science, the first article, the first culture. Language is the reason we are not just animals with brains, but humans with thoughts. So here's my question to you. What will you do with this extraordinary gift? Will you use language to teach, to inspire, to connect, to create something that outlives you? Because every time we share a new idea, every time we speak something true, every time we communicate, we continue the greatest journey our species has ever taken. Language made us who we are, and now, through education and storytelling, we can shape who we become. So thank you for being part of this evolution with me. This is Genesis of Genius, where human innovation begins. If you learned something new and enjoyed this exploration of our origins, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Together, let's keep the story of humanity alive, because the greatest invention in history is the one we are using right now.